Hey, what's up, guys? It's Christian. I just wanted to take a brief sec to talk about some of the things that have been going on. Um, I had a lot of questions around last year about this time of why I was in India and how I got stuck and stuff like that. And I had every intention of creating a vlog as I kind of went, but things didn't pan out kind of like I wanted them to. So here, at the anniversary, I decided I'm going to go ahead and just do that. Kind of give people, some insight, and then hopefully, some of the information I give might help someone else. But her whole purpose of that trip was I went over there for healthcare. What many don't know is that I live with a disease called rheumatoid arthritis. It's a chronic inflammation disease that affects the joints. Normally it attacks the small joints, fingers, wrists, knees, ankles. But if untreated, it can affect the internal organs. So what happened with me was basically I was diagnosed back in 2011, and it started pretty much in my toes, to the point where I would lay in bed and I couldn't bend my toes, or if I did bend them, they would get stuck. So I would have to reach down to, unbend them. And then, me thinking that was dehydration or something like that, I didn't pay it any mind. Then my jaw started clicking, and then once again, being young and dumb, I attributed it to, possibly a dental problem. And, it wasn't until my ankles, swelled up and I couldn't fit my feet into my shoes. And at this time I was in the insurance and investment world, and I was constantly having to, put on wingtip hard bottom shoes, constantly on the go, meeting with different clients, and, here and there, in and out the office. And, it became a strain. I wake up in the morning, it would take me roughly about 5 minutes to get down a flight of 10 stairs, just to get ready. And then I'd be hobbling along every day. So that kind of prompted me to go ahead and, seek out treatment, or just to kind of figure out what was going on. Why is it that, it feels like I'm walking on two sprained ankles, consistently. So I went ahead and reached out to a primary care physician, talked to him, and he looked into my blood work and pretty much came back and said that it looks like, it may be a form of arthritis. Let's go ahead and, put you on Celebrex. Celebrex is just an inflammation type of medication, kind of like ibuprofen. It's nothing too major. So I started taking that. It wasn't working. I'm still hobbling along. Then finally blood work comes back and my RF factor was completely through the roof. And RF factor is pretty much your rheumatoid factor. It kind of tests and tells you, detects the inflammation and things like that, in your blood, and kind of can pinpoint, rheumatic diseases, that people may be encountering or dealing with. So immediately he said, you need to go see a specialist. I saw a specialist and I started working with a rheumatologist here in Dallas. And, initially everything was cool. At that point I was kind of transitioning between jobs, and with the transition, you don't have insurance immediately. So got in, I wasn't feeling too bad. But they went ahead, did blood work. I paid out of pocket, did blood work, x-rays, everything came back, and they were like, looks like, this is pointing at rheumatoid arthritis. So me being naive and not knowing anything about the disease, I'm thinking it's something, okay, you give me some medication, it's a cure for it, I'll be on my way. Come to find out, there's no cure for this disease. And it can be highly destructive to your joints, can cause deformities, can affect your internal organs, if you don't get it treated and taken care of. So, after talking to them, they said that, you need to be on, some medication. So we looked into different medications, and the first thing that she mentioned was biologics. And biologics are pretty much the newer age drugs that are highly effective, but they do have a downside. You see a lot of those commercials on TV for Humira, Xeljanz, Enbrel, just different things like that. People walking around happy, go lucky, skipping and stuff like that. But the side effects are it affects your immune system, whereas it lowers it, it makes it hard to fight infection. And, that was a big thing for me. But I knew I needed something. So, with that being said, she initially offered Humira. And me thinking, okay, cool. I got to pay out of pocket right now till my insurance kicks in. So it's going to cost me roughly about $100-200 or whatever. Come to find out, the medication, as I'm on the phone with the lady discussing a couple weeks later, she tells me that, the medication is a specialty medication. Can't get it at your local Walgreens, anything like that. You have to actually, order this type of medication. It has to be shipped in because it's refrigerated. So I go ahead and, we're talking about it. Then she's like, okay, do you have insurance? I'm like, no, but, I'm willing to pay out of pocket. She was like, well, I don't know about that. And then she tells me that one dose, for a month supply, which I would be taking a pen injection into my stomach or leg, wherever I choose to, can cost up to $1,500 just for that month. So with that, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna just have to deal with this stuff. You know what I mean? I'm gonna have to figure out another way because this is ridiculous. So luckily, before I got off the phone, she was like, you know what? Let me check on something, because in our office, we have a research side where we do, do research, and, it's a possibility that you can get the medication for free and they'll pay you for it. So she went and checked, and they had one more slot open. And I was like, praise God, because without it, I wouldn't have been able to afford it. So luckily, she went ahead and got me in immediately. I went in and got an appointment to go in and fill out the paperwork and everything. And, she said they put me on basically the trial period. And what they were doing was testing out Humira, which is a newer drug that had just passed all the trials and was being said to be highly effective. And then it was with an older drug, which is a DMARD, called methotrexate. And DMARDs are drug modifying anti-rheumatic drugs. Disease modifying anti-rheumatic drugs. They're normally kind of your frontline defense for people that are experiencing any type of rheumatic disease. They normally give those. They're older and they're less expensive. So what they wanted to do was try and see how they work together. So immediately my body responded to the Humira and the methotrexate. Only problem is I didn't like the side effects that they said came with the methotrexate, which was hair loss and, other things like that, but mainly the hair loss. But, with that being said, I still have lost my hair due to genetics. So, I went ahead, started that. That went on for roughly about 3 months or so. They paid me, they gave me the medication for free. And then by that time, insurance kicks in and I transition into a regular patient. And given that my body was responding and I had no symptoms, no inflammation, no joint stiffness, anything, I was like, is a possibility that I could just continue with the Humira alone and do a monotherapy and be done. And she was like, yeah, so let's wean you off of it. Also because another thing is you can't have kids, and they highly, they highly don't recommend, if you're sexually active, you need to go ahead and, use protection and things like that, because, being on this drug, methotrexate, can cause deformities, in your pregnancy. So, I was happy to get off of that. I continued with the Humira for roughly about 7 to 8 years, all the way up until about 2017, 2018. I continued the medication. I saw the doctor roughly maybe every quarter and saw her for like 5 minutes. Came in, she tested my joints, checked my mobility, and I was out of there. And, everything was great. We had a great relationship. I felt like I could trust her. But it wasn't until, I was kind of transitioning out of the job that I was in, and I noticed a change in my health, just my luck. As insurance is about to go away and I'm transitioning in my career, insurance is going away. And now, this medication and stuff, I'm noticing different changes in my body to where I'm waking up, I'm stiff, there's inflammation. I'm not as mobile as I normally am. And then next thing you know, boom, it just completely stops working. So from there, her recommendation was, let's go ahead and put you back on the methotrexate, and let's try these two together again and see how that affects you. Did that for roughly about a month, and I still didn't see any change. There was nothing. My blood work and numbers were through the roof. My SED rate, which tests the inflammation in your body, was through the roof. I was off the charts. It was all red. And then kind of as things were getting worse, I noticed, some pain in my knee. I was stepping up in my truck, and then out of nowhere, my knee was just so painful. It was like, it was something as if, you pulled a muscle or you tweaked the ligament, within your knee. And I did nothing but other than step up in my truck. And pretty much that was like the very beginning to the worst pain that I would experience in my life. So after taking, after doing that and expressing that, this stuff isn't working, she decided, let's try something new. We'll try you on a new biologic, and we're gonna start with Enbrel. So I started the Enbrel. Enbrel is, you're gonna take that. It's just another injection, and you take that medication once a week. So I started that, and the rule of thumb is to try these medications and give them roughly about 12 weeks, to see if they actually work. So, within that window, no matter if I was in pain or, things weren't going well, she was pretty much like, you have to wait. You have to try it out and see what happens. So that's exactly what I did. 12 weeks, it was a struggle. I wasn't getting any better. Things were just actually progressively getting worse. And then finally at that 12th week, I was calling and making appointments like, something else has to change. Something else has to happen. This isn't working. From there, I noticed, my knee was gradually getting worse to the point where, I was walking with a noticeable limp, having to wear a knee brace. My ankles started swelling, and my wrist, to the point where it was difficult to even bend my wrist, put pressure on it, difficulty holding, a cup. But it wasn't the worst, that I experienced just yet. So, at that point, she decided to try something new. She said, you know what, there's a new medication out here. It's in the pill form, and it's called Xeljanz. I've heard Xeljanz. I've seen the commercials constantly. It's crazy that I sit in front of the TV and, I've never heard of rheumatoid arthritis before, but it seems like every time I turn on the TV, it's like the commercials are just completely channeled for me. And I look at, and I'm thinking like somebody's watching me, or they're looking at any and everything that's around me and searching my browsing history, whatever, because all these commercials seem to be tailored towards me. So, I went ahead and started that. And in the meantime, like I said, I was in complete pain. My knee got worse. But, it was another time for me to wait and figure out, what else can I do? And hopefully, over time this will work. So, you would take this pill twice a day. And you do it for another 12 weeks. But in the meantime, what she did was she put me on a heavy dose of steroids, right? And I was on prednisone, and she started me on a tiered dose of like 40 milligrams for a week, 30, 20, 10, and it scales down. So I did that, started getting some relief. I noticed the inflammation went down. I started reducing the steroid injections that I was constantly having to get to kind of, help me kind of get back to normal. I was also reducing the steroid injections directly into my knee, directly into my wrist. But I was finally getting there. But you know, it was still, you know, we were still kind of having to kind of teeter back and forth with not taking the steroids, and then, you know, waiting to see if the medication worked, because we didn't want to get confused and thinking that, you know, one is replacing the other. So also, you know, you have to think, you know, when you're taking steroids, you know, there are side effects. You know, addiction and withdrawals are very big. You know, with taking these steroids, it lowers your immune system. You know, it causes weight gain, water retention in your legs, can cause diabetes, cataracts, you know, all these different things if you continuously take steroids, high doses, for a long period of time. So, you know, it's important, you know, to get off of those things. But, you know, over that time, I took the Xeljanz for roughly about 3 to 4 months, and still there was nothing. You know what I mean? It seemed like in that process, within that time, you know, our communication between me and the doctor kind of started to dwindle. You know, she wouldn't respond. You know, her responses would be really short. It would be hard to get her to respond. It would be hard for me to, you know, get in for an appointment. It was kind of like, you know, she didn't have a clue, and she's kind of just going through the motions, you know, and the level of care that I once felt that I had, you know, she wasn't giving. So went ahead and did that. You know, I waited. I started to get, you know, worse, to the point where I was walking with a cane and crutches, you know, just to get around. You know, it became difficult for me to stand for long periods of time. I get lightheaded, very, very weak. It was hard for me to eat. My weight was dropping. You know, through that course of time, I dropped roughly about 25 pounds. And then ultimately, overall, I dropped probably about 35 to 40 pounds. You know, just from this. My activity levels, you know, I'm used to cycling, you know, working on cars, photography, you know, is my thing. You know, working on the computer, doing graphic design, just any and everything, being active with my kids, with my wife, everybody, you know, are the things that I like to do. But, you know, those things, you know, were put on the back burner. And, you know, I was just breaking down, so much so that I would pretty much lay around all day. The only thing I would like to drink or eat was smoothies. You know, it was hard for me to get to and from to the restroom. You know, getting in and out of the shower to wash myself, you know, became difficult because my hands were so messed up and the pain was so great. You know, I was taking Epsom salt baths 2 or 3 times a day, just to kind of get some relief. And the only problem with that was once it was time to get out of the shower, you know, or get out of the tub, you know, that was a difficulty, because I couldn't even use my arms to support my weight, you know, to pick myself up to even get out, you know. So immediately, you know, my mind is just going crazy. You know, it's breaking me down physically, mentally, emotionally. And, you know, my family doesn't have a clue. You know, they look to me for strength, and I have no strength to give. You know, so, you know, I'm calling the doctor. I'm trying to figure out what's next. And she just kind of, just wait. You just have to wait. And I'm like, this can't be. So as I'm slowly starting to look for a new doctor, she decides, you know what, let's try something new. You know, this isn't working. Let's try Orencia. Orencia is another injection. I did that for about 2 months. You know, and then I was like, you know, I'm not doing this anymore. It's not working. I'm looking for a second opinion. So in that time, you know, I'm completely broken. You know what I mean? You know, I'm at home by myself, you know, after my kids go to school, and I'm just here. It's just me alone, and the only thing I could do was talk to God, you know, asking him why is it happening to me? You know, I would break down and cry because I couldn't bear the pain, you know what I mean? And you know, it'd be so difficult, you know, and I live in a 2-story house, so, you know, it would be so difficult for me to get up and down the stairs, you know, to the point where I would have to sit my butt on the stairs and go down each one just to get down. And I would sleep in the living room just to, just so that I wouldn't have to scale the stairs, and I could be close to, the restroom and be close to the kitchen, to get what I needed. But in that time, I just kind of, broke down and said, I gotta find a new doctor. My family was there. They helped me search out and seek out a new doctor. So we did that. Only problem is that, just like anything in America, American medicine takes forever for you to get, appointments and get in. But it took me roughly about 3 months, and I got into a new doctor, and basically gave him all my paperwork, gave him all my medical records, and I never heard from that doctor again, my previous doctor. After being with her for, roughly 8 years, I never heard a word from her. She never checked in to figure out what was going on, anything. I guess she had a sigh of relief that I was gone. But, it's neither here nor there. I'm glad I did what I did, because I come to find out, the things that she was doing weren't safe, and it possibly could have killed me. It's tricky when you work with these biologics, and, this new doctor kind of introduced that to me. Originally we got in and he said, you know what, you tried this, and this, so let's try to get you on an infusion therapy, which is, more effective and it's faster. So pretty much what infusion therapy is kind of like dialysis. You go in, you sit down, and they inject the medication directly into your bloodstream. And you do that, on a tiered basis, to where you're doing it every 8 weeks. But the only problem was, he was like, you know what, to make sure you're safe, and it's safe to do that, because it can be heavy on your immune system, let's go ahead and get you checked out, get you a chest x-ray. Did a chest x-ray, come to find out, boom, they found something in my lungs. He immediately called me in the evening just to let me know, like, this is important. You need to get a CT scan. I spoke with the radiologist, and he said that you need to go ahead and get scheduled for a CT, because this could be something contagious, and you need to stop the steroids that you're on, until we figure out what this is, and you won't be able to start the infusion therapy. So me, just to add more on top of what I'm already dealing with, I have to hear this. But like I said, I'm glad I did, and I'm glad I figured this out and found this, because had I switched to another biologic, it could have, drastically affected my health. So got in for a CT scan, and boom, same thing came back. I had speckles and stuff inside my lungs, and they didn't know what it was, but they were looking at it and saying it's a possibility that it's TB. So, I need to see the health department, get checked out, and make sure we can rule that out. You know what I mean? So did that. It was all ruled out. I go to get referred to a pulmonologist to get a checkup and figure out, more in depth of what's going on. Get with this pulmonologist, get in, everything seemed like it was going well until, the finance part came up. Something that I didn't bring up. I didn't have any problems with, taking care of my bills or anything, but I didn't have insurance. I don't understand why that was of importance to him, as long as I'm paying the bill or whatever out of pocket. But it was of more importance than making sure that I was healthy and taking care of my health. So we sat down, and he was like, you know what, this looks like it's a possibility of maybe a fungus or something. Maybe you breathed in some mold, some sawdust, anything outside, bacteria, whatever. But we need to go ahead and do, a test and do some blood work, and let's rule out any fungus or anything like that. Because of the way it looked, he attributed it to being a fungus. Did all that, blood work came back, everything was negative. In that time, I had to have a follow-up. We discussed or whatever over the phone. When he called me back and we discussed it, he wanted to say, okay, everything came back negative. So, we'll, since you don't have insurance, let's revisit this in, 3 to 6 months. So me thinking, I'm like, is this what you recommend all your patients that have something going on in their lungs that they don't know about? So, I started to, counter everything that he was saying and ask, like, I need to figure out now. I don't have 3 to 6 months. I'm in pain. I can't move. I'm walking around, in my 30s on a cane and crutches and barely moving. I need to know what's going on. And he was like, well, the procedure that you need to have is called a bronchoscopy, and it can be very expensive, and you need this and need that, but you maybe want to check with the hospital and figure out how much it's going to cost you. And I'm like, dude, just tell me, when can I get in? You know what I mean? I don't need you to worry about finances or anything like that. You tell me what I need to do to get in, and let's get this done, right? So I go ahead and reach out to the hospital, you know what I mean, to talk to them. They tell me that I need information from the doctor, right? I contact the doctor's office. It takes them 3 weeks to get the information that I needed, so that I could get the information from the hospital. Fast forward, they contact me. They let me know that the procedure for the bronchoscopy, which is it was a procedure that you don't have to be admitted. It's a quick turnaround procedure where they go in through your nose and go down in your lungs and take a biopsy, and then they test it. So go ahead and get the information. They tell me that the procedure is going to cost $27,000. So right there, I'm like, this is ridiculous. You know what I mean? Because I had already been doing my research in that time, and I found, different little, the blue book for medical, different things like that, different procedures, and found that it was way less than that. So they come back and they're like, but you know what? We can do it for, we on average do it for $17,000, but for you, since you're paying out of pocket, we'll do it for $9,600. I'm like, this is crazy. You know what I mean? Because I did my research, and I can drive 100 miles to a doctor that does the same procedure, and it was, a fraction of that. So still, with that being said, there's still red tape and stuff like that you have to go through. And I knew that I wasn't working with this rheumatologist or this pulmonologist. So I said, I'm done with him. So from there, I went ahead and I looked into, other things, and started, researching. I was back at square one. Ended up talking to, my uncle, and he was like, you know what, Christian, you need to, get in, and possibly we need to get you to India. And I'm like, India? And he's like, yeah, you need to be in a place where they can do, stop jumping through these hoops, and being charged outrageous prices and things like that. Let's get in here to where you can get with some doctors, and they're gonna treat you and test you for everything, all inclusive. In one setting, you'll be able to do everything. So being intrigued by that and knowing that I need to do something, that was what I started doing. I started researching. My aunt, she's been over there. My cousins, they go on an annual basis, for checkups and things like that. So I said, let me look into this. By that time, my knee is completely shot. It feels like it's bone to bone. I could barely sleep. It was hard for me to bend it, do anything. So I was like, I need to do something. I need to have surgery on my knee. I was to the point where I was even paying and ordering my own MRIs, just to figure out, what exactly is going on. I had some tears, cartilage is completely gone. So I was like, I need to do this. So I reached out to 2 hospitals. The first one was Apollo, and then Fortis Memorial Hospital. Okay, both of them are in the northern part of India, close to New Delhi. And ultimately, after doing my, my research and then talking to the people, which were both responsive, I narrowed it down to Fortis Memorial in Gurgaon, which is probably, like I said, 15 minutes or so from New Delhi. So, I'm talking to Ravinder, who was a coordinator, for the international department, and he's forever. I'm forever grateful to him because he was completely helpful. Talked to him. He got me, got all my information, did everything from all the process of getting visas and everything for my wife, my dad, myself, got all my medical records and information, and reached out to these doctors, that I would need to see. and got responses back from each doctor. You know what I mean? And that let me know that doctors aren't too busy. And I don't know what's going on in the US, but it's clear that, we're confused, thinking that, we have to wait on the doctors. When in reality, their system there is where they wait on, they're waiting on the patients, and consistently helping. But went ahead and did that. They gave me the recommendations, got me a cost for everything. So at that point, we prepared, got our flights, had our visas in order, and set out to fly to India. Got there, they had everything set up. They had a car there for us at the airport to drive us to the hotel. We get checked in that morning. Literally within probably 4 hours, I had appointments set up with every doctor. So as soon as I got to the hospital, I'm in a wheelchair by this time because I just can't move around. And I get in, the first doctor I meet with is the orthopedic surgeon. Orthopedic surgeon to look at my knee. We talk about it, he orders x-rays. And then he said, get the x-rays and then come back and then we'll go from there. So I meet with him. I go get x-rays. I end up getting a CT scan on my lungs. I got all my blood work done. I go to meet with the rheumatologist next. He gives his recommendation, and before he could do anything, he was like, you need to get this lung situation checked out. I meet with the pulmonologist. He looks at my CT scans and was like, you know what? We're gonna get you in for this bronchoscopy. We need to rule out everything, and then we'll go from there. So within 48 to 72 hours, I was on the operating table getting that bronchoscopy procedure done. My wife was there. She handled everything, all the paperwork. You know what I mean? She was moving around, making the payments and just doing everything that I needed. It was very, 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 very helpful. She was my strength, my right hand when it came to making sure that, everything was getting done and getting all the information because, I was just completely out of it. But did that, bronchoscopy came back and they stated, you know what? Everything looks clear. It looks like whatever's going on in your lungs is due to your rheumatoid arthritis being untreated. And, we're gonna still test it out, test these biopsies, but test the biopsy that we have. But for now, it looks like you're good to go. So fast forward 3 days later, I get in and I go back and meet with the orthopedic surgeon. He looks at all my stuff, looks at the x-rays and puts it up on his wall. And he was like, you gotta have surgery. My knee was bone to bone. He was like, we need to do this now. He called the rheumatologist and was like, you know what, whatever treatment you have for him, can it wait, a couple weeks, and then we'll go ahead and get him in for surgery. That was on a Monday. He said, you'll be admitted on Wednesday, and then by Thursday, you'll have surgery. Just that quick. Got in on Wednesday. They prepped me, got me my room, got everything. And by that time my wife had left, she had to leave, but my dad had flew in. He wanted to get checked out as well. They do an all comprehensive health check, cancer screening, everything. So they did that. I got in, and that next morning I was on the operating table. I was given an epidural just to completely, numb me down. And I went in, in my 30s and got a complete knee replacement on my left knee. The technology, I guess, that they use, that this doctor particular uses, is, I guess, something that, something new. But, as far as inflammation and pain, I never felt any pain, from my knee surgery, which was crazy to me. But, they took care of me. The nurses were very, very helpful. I was very impressed by all of the, all the help and the willingness to do whatever. They had physical therapists come in, having me walk. Within like 2 days, I was walking down the hallway. Even though it was with a walker, I was walking down the hallway. and already walking within 2 days of surgery. And by that time, the crazy thing was COVID-19 was really setting in, and initially when we left the US, there wasn't any type of alarm or anything like that. People were still kind of wondering, but when we got to India, they were full-fledged, mask, sanitizer, checking temperatures, everything. But as I lay in the hospital, I'm getting news that they're about to stop flights due to COVID. So I'm like, well, I'm still here, and I gotta get this, I gotta get out the hospital. I look into contacting Emirates to go ahead and schedule a different flight. So I did so, scheduled it for probably about 4 or 5 days later. And, we're good to go. I'm about to, a week later, I'm gonna leave, and come to find out, boom, that flight was canceled. So I was like, I called Emirates, we're on the phone while I lay in the hospital, contact them, and they scheduled me for a flight, I think April 12th, which is 2 days before my birthday. So I'm like, okay, cool, I'll be back before my birthday. And at that point, no matter what station, I'm back at my hotel, doing physical therapy up until it's time to go. And I'm finding every station is talking about COVID-19, every channel, in the midst of that, the Prime Minister of India, Modi, went ahead and did a complete lockdown, completely locked down the city to the point where, public transportation, everything, Ubers, everything was completely done for. So I'm at a point where, I gotta get home. Come to find out, get closer to that date, Emirates has canceled all flights. There's no flights coming into India, and there's no flights leaving. So I'm pretty much stuck. And Emirates is like, we're not flying out until May 1st. So check back in May and we'll get you a flight. So I'm here trying to make arrangements, letting my family know that, we're not gonna be back, but, I gotta do what I gotta do. I still gotta do physical therapy. I'm in at a decent hotel. I'm in the Courtyard Marriott. They're providing breakfast every morning. I'm, moving and shaking. Right down the street is a market that I can walk to, to get fruit, vegetables, and food that I need, and essentials. And then also, another great thing is that the hospital is roughly probably about 10 minutes walking distance from the hotel, which is even better, so that I can go and get checked up, follow up with my doctors and get medication that I needed. So, going through all of that, I end up finally getting on the line, with the hospital. I mean, not with the hospital, but getting on the line with the airlines, and they're like, we're not flying. You're looking at June before we fly. And, over time, the Prime Minister is consistently doing even more lockdowns. So at this point, I'm on Twitter every day, doing research with the US Embassy and seeing there's thousands of people stranded in India and other countries. And the US Embassy decided they're gonna do repatriation flights back to the US. So I'm like, okay, cool. I'll just get a refund on that trip from Emirates, and I'll worry about that later. But let me go ahead and pay for whatever I need to pay for right now to go ahead and hop on a flight to go to get back to the US. Only problem is that it was on a selected basis. You fill out a form, and if you get picked, good. If not, you know what I mean? You still gotta wait. And the problem is that the US is now charging $2,500 plus per seat per ticket. And there was a limit on luggage that they would fly back, and they're going to fly you to a random city in the US, and then you have to find your way back home. So at that point, I'm like, this is crazy. You know what I mean? You're charging, could be, and they wouldn't even give you an exact price. They say they will let you know once you get there to board the flight. They'll let you know how much it's going to cost. So that means it could be anywhere from $2,500 up to $3,000 to $4,000. Who knows? So, from there I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna hold off. Let's see what Emirates comes up with. I'm still going back and forth to the hospital. I'm talking to the guys that are helping me. Ravi and Barkat are very, very, very helpful with, getting me information. They helped us move around prior to the lockdown. But this is just my reality right now. So I just started focusing on my physical therapy and moving and getting mobile again. And in that meantime, I still was on Twitter. And luckily, just searching Twitter, I stumbled upon, a tweet from Air India, where Air India stated that they're looking to go and pick up, Indians from other countries and fly them back. And instead of flying empty planes, I guess they thought it would be cost effective to take people that are stranded in India and fly them back to the US when they go pick people up. So at that point, I immediately started contacting Air India and just calling back to back. And this is, mind you, this is in May. This is roughly about the second week in May, right before Mother's Day. So I'm calling and I'm on the line. I started probably about 7 p.m. and I was on the line all the way till 4 a.m. Getting hung up on, phone disconnecting, being put on hold for long wait periods, and finally got with somebody that could get us 2 flights out within 48 hours. So we're scrambling, getting everything we need. I got to get a fit to fly from the hospital to let them know that I'm fit to be able to travel. I'm trying to do all that. And I ended up getting all the information. We gathered everything that we needed, sorted out, and got done with the hotel and let them know that we're leaving, and worked out a ride to get to the airport, because public transportation was so shut down to where between Haryana, which was the state we were in, and New Delhi, they actually had armed roadblocks and checkpoints where you have to go through. So, it would be hard for many drivers didn't want to do it because, for one, once they pick you up and take you, it would be hard for them to get back, without the particular information. But luckily the hotel had some stuff set up and a driver, and he ended up getting us there, and we boarded, masked up, and they gave us face shields, gloves, everything. And it was like, something out of a movie, something like Breakout. Everybody was completely, they had hazmat suits on, all the stewardess. But we were happy to be there. There were lines, down the block, waiting just to get into the airport, just to get on these flights. But, luckily we did so, and I was able to get back, which, many people saw. I was able to get back right on Mother's Day, and I got in and, got to surprise my family and be here for my wife and my family, right on Mother's Day. And it was complete shock for them. And, I'm just grateful, for the opportunity. And if I had to do it again, given the state I was in, I would do it all over again. I'm forever humbled. The people there are very, very humble and gracious and caring. The doctors, I had my doctor's personal, phone number to where I could WhatsApp and talk to him if I had questions, just that quick. I'm just forever grateful for the opportunity to be able to be fortunate enough to have family to support me and be able to go, and I just want this, this story to be kind of a testament to, the care that is provided around the world, and that there is good, and, one way is not the set way. America is great, and science and everything is incredible here, but there is opportunities for you to seek the care that you need outside of the U.S. And I hate to see so many people be put on waiting lists or die or become chronically ill because they don't have this information. And there are other countries and other doctors that are suited and capable of assisting you and helping you. They only when I got to the hospital, they have a board that shows the map of the world where people from all over the world come from different parts just to go there to their research institute just to receive care. I saw people from many different walks of life, ethnicities and religions, whatever, and they were all there for to receive care. And after talking to the staff, Barkat and Ravi, they expressed to us that they don't get a lot of people from the U.S. A lot of people come from Africa, Asia, and Europe, but they don't get many people from the U.S. And I just kind of attribute that to people just not knowing and not having the information. But it is possible, and to be honest, it is cost effective. For some of the treatments that they say is going to cost $100,000 or more, just because you're paying for waiting on insurance and things like that. You know what I mean? You can get for a certain price that may be affordable for you, and all hope isn't lost. So that's my story. I just wanted to go ahead and let everybody know what was going on. And I got a lot of pictures and a lot of video and different things like that I'll upload with it, just to kind of give some insight that I've kind of been sitting on. And I'm back. I'm probably about 95%. My health is good. I'm moving around. I'm mobile. And I'm just, like I said, I'm forever grateful to the people at Fortress Memorial. And I'm glad God worked through those doctors, to heal me and get me back to normal so that I can, do what I need to do, get back to photography and everything that I love, cycling, and just be here for my family, and that's pretty much it. So I appreciate you for listening. You have any questions, feel free to contact me. I'm here to answer whatever I can. Peace.